In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use your own voice to create some interesting fire whoosh sounds. So here are the sounds that I've created. So right now I've got the microphone set up. Here's my left one and here's my right one. They're quite sensitive. They're these little DIY ones. They're going straight into the camera at the moment, but I will record them with the little Tascam recorder. And what I'm going to do is a couple of sweeps left to right and right to left, and then also up and down, so then it doesn't just keep going left to right. And then do some variations on the recording, so have my hands cupped like that, and then like that, a couple with like a wetter mouth. Just do a couple of tests like that. Those ones there, I'm like vibrating my throat again. So it's like when you're trying to clear your throat when you've got a cough or a phlegmy mouth. It's quite disgusting. But yeah, it's just going like that, and then cup it in the mouth, and it sort of sounds like some really big fiery embers burning. And then when we distort it later, it'll sound quite cool. Once I finished editing all of the sounds, I then brought them into Cubase and started layering them up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sounds, and a couple of them are duplicated. And what I've done is pitch shifted a couple of them down an octave. So you can see here, I've pitch shifted, resampled them because I've done it in 96. I pitch shifted them down an octave so they're a little bit lower. I've done that on a couple of them. I've done it on these two, and I've done it on these two as well. So these two are octave stacked. So this one is an octave lower than the one above. So if I just solo those two. Okay. So it's the same sound, just stacked up, and I've added a little phaser on there as well to give it some of the movement. So once I was happy with how I layered up some of the sounds, I then sent all of these tracks to a bus, which is this one. And as you can see here, I've done a lot of distortion on the sounds. So let's just add it all in. So it's starting to sound a little bit more like a fire whoosh. The bass amp, the VST bass amp, really helps give it its space. It's quite raw. So yeah, the main thing is just adding loads of little distortion plugins, doing them in little bits. So like little sections, instead of doing one plugin with a massive amount of distortion. It always sounds better when you just do them in little sections, and you can bring them in, bring them out, see what you think. I also added some filtering with the EQ. I found that doing a high cut really helped bring in the sound. So if I take that off and play it, it sounds a bit too, there's just way too much high end going on. Put it back on. It sort of seems to sell it a little bit more as a fire whoosh because you've got like the nice raw. With the filter on the EQ, I wanted to add some movement, like even more movement to the sound. I clicked W here, which means right. Then I added some automation in. So you can see that the filter moves slightly when the sound picks up in the middle. That sort of like brings out the raw bit as it gets to the peak of the sound, and then you bring it back in as it tails off. Say, for instance, this fire was on a stick. It sounds like the fire comes towards you and then away from you again because you're using the filter to take away and bring in some of the high end. Once I was happy with that sound, I bounced it out and got this sound. So this is the bounce from that sound. It's got a nice little crunch on the top of it. So with that sound, I thought it'd be quite good to add it into a sampler. So here's the sampler in Cubase. So I just dragged this sound and dropped it into my sampler. When I played it using my MIDI keyboard, you can even just do it by just pushing these buttons down here, or using your keyboard on your computer, like your computer keyboard, you can use the QWERTY bit. I pushed a number of the keys at the same time, different velocities as well, and then it gave me this sound. So because we're playing this same sample, but just at different pitches and at different times, it gives it a lot more texture and layers. Playing it in the sampler also means that you can play the sample at different times. So you can see here I've offset it slightly so that the low raw comes in first. So this will be the lowest sound. So the lowest one will come in first, and then up here is the highest one. And I just got that to tie him in with the low one, so then they both came in at the same sort of peak. So once I'd done that, I added a little bit more grit to it. So this one's called Dirt. So this is a little bit like adding distortion and saturation to the sound. Added a little bit of a reverb on it, so we got a little bit more of a tail, because without the reverb, it sounded like this. Sort of abruptly stops at the end. I didn't really like that. So I've added a bit of a reverb in it. Adds a little bit of a tail on the end. I also added OTT, which is a free plugin. It's just a compressor which just smashes it a little bit more. So I exported that, got another bounce here. I was getting quite happy with that. And then I'd done the same again, put the bounce into a sampler, played it a number of times. So you can see here, I've done quite a few different variations. Just play through a couple of them. So that was just playing different keys on the keyboard to add in different textures. See, that's quite high. And these ones are much lower. They're a bit more like a big old fireball. After I'd done them, I exported them. So they're all just little separate sound files like this. And I brought them onto another track, added a little bit more reverb, leveled it out a bit. And then I started playing around with blending two of these performances of the sound together with a crossfade. So here's how it sounds. So I really like the way that it whooshes in, and then it sounds like someone swings a fireball around their head and then past you. So it's like you get two whooshes at once. I thought the crossfade really added to more of the movement. So I was quite happy with those. I'd done it on a couple of them. After that, I added one more final effect, which was a flanger. So this helped sell the sound a little bit more. When you hear like a fireball, it has like a weird flangey, filtery sound, and this really brought the sound together. So I'll just play this one. I'll turn it up a bit so you can hear it a bit more. So this will be like way more than you should. So you can hear it sort of like semi-sounds like a jet plane flying past, like the weird afterburners you get on a jet. So I added that in, just a little bit of that. So it's just like a little subtle bit of movement from the fireball with some filters moving it around, and it just makes it a little bit more realistic. So yeah, that's what I settled with in the end. Here's a couple more. I hope this tutorial was helpful in creating some interesting fire whoosh sounds using just your own voice. I usually use some other source material, which is like having my t-shirt or a flag on a pole and whizzing that around past the microphones. That usually creates some really good source for the fire whooshes. So maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. If you've got any other interesting videos you want me to do, leave it in the description, leave a little comment, and I might check that out maybe within the hour, maybe within a couple of months. I don't know, I'm pretty long on it. I post more frequently on my Instagram page, so go give that a follow. I'll put it somewhere around here. If you wanna, drop me a like. If you don't wanna, don't drop me a like or a subscribe or whatever, or the bell, the big old bell that's hanging here. That's gonna get taken out of context. But yeah, so cheers for watching and big loves.